Greetings from the Road Part 2.
A lot of tradition is obviously embedded in your work. It feels so familiar. Like when we look at the work, it relates to us in a different way. And not just a particular piece, because both of us had like a different reaction.
Yes.
But for me, in particular, the tree of knowledge, the tree of good and bad, it also is a symbol of what we're trying to preserve. Like for me, I thought about you know those big trees like the baobab tree that you sit under at night, and then you sort of like, you know, your grandmother tells you stories, they impart knowledge, or like, you know, if you do something naughty, your grandmother sends you to the tree to do something. So tell us more about this tree of knowledge. And
in my mind,
the thought process.
If God exists, it's probably a tree.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen a thing give so free fruit.
Yeah.
Cleans your air, shade. When I grew up in Chirka, we used to have what we call mango tree directions, whereby there were big trees in the neighborhood.
That's the Ugandan GPS for the guys who don't know.
So it also speaks to our relationship with trees. And because for a tree to be a direction, it must have lived long enough and touched so many people that they'll be like, you know?
There's actually a place along Golo called Kayembe.
You see?
I don't know if they plucked that tree there because I don't see mangoes. The whole place, like you pass there, it's like the spirit of the tree.
Yes. So even in looking at the layered symbology of trees to us now and then, and also in our belief systems, whether it's animist belief systems or Judeo-Christian belief systems, we put a lot of importance on.
Whether it's animist?
Animist. Yes.
What is animist?
So animist belief systems are belief systems that don't believe in a monotheistic God.
Okay.
So monotheistic God is the belief system that there is only one God.
Okay.
But animists, they tend to look towards
multiple,
and all those dwelling with us, you know, in the trees, in the mountains, in the oceans.
Okay, so this is like what we believe might have been the structure that ancient African civilizations might have
indigenous.
So
if you look at most indigenous beliefs, they're animist, because they believe man and thing and nature are not disconnected. We are together.
So that you would like maybe give godlike properties to a river,
exactly,
a lake, a tree.
Exactly.
Like, okay,
exactly. Exactly.
We've all learned a new word. Those of you who knew the word,
find your vocabulary for you.
So trees for me are the closest thing to a deity.
Yeah.
And pros and cons.
Yeah.
It's an unbiased. A tree will give shade to a thief, and it will also give shade to an angel.
Yes.
You know, it's that whole unbiased way of distributing benefit, like the sun and the rain.
And I think for me, this is the contrast that's interesting, because we come from Nambi, whose eyes are so piercing and so judgmental, and then you find, you know, the tree of knowledge, which offers you room to be yourself. It's more forgiving. It's less judging, and it's more forgiving. I insist, this tree for me.
But both of them are discuss key interruptions in our being. For example, the tree
culturally.
Belief systems.
Okay.
For example, the tree of knowledge in Judeo-Christianism is we were forbid from touching, from eating of it. Because for some reason God didn't want us to have that weight. He didn't want us to have the weight of free will. And we sought it out. But in hindsight, free will gives you the ability to see between good and bad. Because if you didn't have free will, then that conversation of good and bad will also not happen.
It becomes redundant.
Exactly. And then also, Nambi was blamed. So Eve was blamed from eating of that tree and bringing death into the world. Nambi was blamed for going back to pick seeds and bringing death into the world. So these are two stories from two different groups of people that again condemn the woman, which is not new. A lot of cultures, a lot of stories, but I have arrived at this place of that people were quite mystified by feminine power to create, that they were like, you gave us life, you must have given us death.
I think it has always been human nature to immediately mistrust and persecute something that you don't understand.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
like if you take the Salem, which like you're a healer, people are getting better. You're like, nope,
This
we don't
is
trust
witchcraft.
it.
Yeah, like, yes. What are you doing? Like the relationship that females have. Oh God, I feel like a voodoo woman. No. Those Chad podcasts where they call women female.
Oh gosh. Okay.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that every indigenous culture, especially, women have such a unique relationship with nature and the power of creation. Yeah. They're usually water guardians. They're usually,
and we even call the earth mother.
Yes, but on the flip side of that conversation also, there's something I wrote in my notebook which I call exploitable virginity. Of like, you see something virgin, immediately you want to exploit it, whether it's a female or a virgin piece of land,
concept, any pure something,
and it's also that sort of puts a touch on our belief systems and how we approach things that like autonomy. I'm trying to look for the words, but they've gone. Hopefully, I remember them.
No, but like I think you put the point across how we approach things that maybe might not be different, might be different from us.
Yes,
maybe.
Yes.
And then how we want to control.
Yes, of the thing.
Yes.
I mean, you look at something and you're like, yeah, I could own that.
Yeah. If you can't control it or you can't explain it, then you persecute it.
Yeah. Tell us about the use of gold on this particular tree.
I usually use more gold, but this exhibition doesn't have a lot of gold.
It doesn't?
If you see some of my more artworks, like every little thing has to have a bit of gold. But with this specific artworks, I wanted the gold to be used as a symbol. Okay. To be interpreted as some sort of symbol. I wanted it to have almost a gold weight. Valuable. I wanted the distinction between value and the idea of value to be the same. So when you look at the tree, the fruits are golden to bring reference to the value of fruit as a nourishment, fruit as a result of growth, fruit as a result of enlightenment. Wow. So wherever you attach to gold as value, and of course it's not a unique concept because as a Judeo-Christian, that gold has always been attached to the divine. Even when you look at other belief systems, Hinduism and all that, the deities are decked out in gold. So it's just bringing that relationship of value and gold as a valuable thing together. When you look at Nambi bringing the seeds into that portal, they are golden. The story tells us they were millets. I could have done a branch of millet or what, but I was like, I'm not trying to retell this story. I'm not.
I think it works. The gold in her hand, it sort of weaponizes the whole piece.
So about topapa, so I like how you use the green, and we can talk about that. But I also like how delicate the tissue paper is. It sort of reminds me of school when you get a string of ink, put it in ink, and then blot. I don't know if it was blot, but with a paper like this, and then you pull. So the print would come out.
Okay, which schools did you guys go to? Because our schools had glasses and windows and
us too, but we also did like proper art. No, but we also did proper art. Anyway, so tell us about Topapa. Well, Maria comes back to Kampala.
I'm also curious about Topapa, by the way, the name
Topapa.
Yeah.
Okay. It's actually one of the simplest pieces. So there's three things that for me Topapa does for me. First of all, it sort of scratches that itch of I can be abstract. I can communicate abstract emotions without actually, leading anybody down that path. I wanted a piece that you just saw and felt. So
without pressure.
Without pressure. You just looked at something like an intriguing thing. Or what an intriguing object.
I got that.
And then secondly, it also allowed me to transition the materials I was working with onto canvas. So before I was working on canvas, I was just making those long tapestries. And when I took them to fairs in Europe, I noticed that a lot of the people were struggling to relate with the work. And I was trying to ask myself, are they struggling because it's made out of paper? Are they struggling because it's a tapestry? Like people would come to me and like, this is intriguing, this is interesting. But how do we display it in our house? Yeah. I was like, okay, that's a good question. I hadn't thought about it. Me, I would just make sheets of paper and send.
That is actually what I was going to ask later. But I guess we can cover it now since you touched it.
Yes.
How you see, we can come back. I hope we stay on top of it. But how you see your pieces being, like when you're creating them, are you saying this is a home piece?
So in the beginning, I didn't care because I didn't have the emotional real estate to imagine that. I just wanted to get the work done. But in the last 2 years, I've been thinking about the finishing. Yes, that lies in presentation because that's the final journey. Making just the work ends at the studio, but then it leaves the studio and it becomes a thing of value. It becomes a thing to put on the wall. So now I had to spend a bit more time thinking about how it is experienced. So that is a bit for my newer work. So nowadays I see the work in all light. I see it in natural light. I see it in the dark. I see it with a spotlight, so that the colors don't change too drastically with all the light changes.
Because then that will also change the message.
Exactly. So I'm now trying to control the whole process so that I can actually advise on the lighting. I can advise on how it's presented because I have tried to think through the whole process. Before, I would leave it at the mercy of the curator.
Okay, so you had some input towards the curation.
Yes, towards the curation. So Topapa.
But Topapa makes sense though.
Yes.
Like because again, back to the delicate thing and all, right? It looks like you took so much time on it because like tissue paper, blotting it and then putting it so delicately together and making sure it doesn't fall apart because it's easy for the paper to fall apart.
It is true. Like those were the real feelings. Because when I was making the paper, I was like, okay, I know how the paper, because the canvases, this is the middle, and I apply the tissue on them. So this gives the canvases structure, integrity. But taking the tissue paper directly onto canvas is something I had never done. I did not know even how the paper behaved. So what I did with these works, I just put the tissue, I put the paint and just allow them to crinkle in their own way. So it is almost like a negotiation between allowing the paper to do what it wants and then me nudging it into shapes. Or creating a certain mood or ambience and different movements. And then because I work in layers, I get to see how the layers evolve. I get to see how the old layer affects the new layer. And I wanted to make this piece that almost looks like if you cross-sectioned a leaf or something, what kind of veins do you see underneath there? Because paper has memory, like water has. Once you put water on paper, it's like it wants to revert back to the tree that it once was. So it was interesting to learn about the material through that work. So the 3 pieces I made, because I call them thoughts on paper, they're just basically investigating different types of paper, how they react to light, how they react to water, and how they react to color or hue.
Okay, so I think this might be a bit far-fetched or a reach, but then, I think reaches, especially like this one, artist's bread and butter, like you depend on somebody standing in front of your painting and making a conclusion that sort of fits. So this is a reach, but I feel like my, it's not an aversion, but it's like I'm more drawn to other pieces that tell a direct story than this one. And I think it's aptly named because it's inviting you to take time to get the meaning from it. And I prefer the ones where I look at it and I'm already getting I'm already getting.
There's already an entry.
There's already an entry point for me. I don't know, maybe you prefer more abstract.
I think I do, like from everything that we've learned from the different exhibitions, but also from this one, I think I'm more into abstract. But Topapa in particular, like I was saying, for me, it's more about life. It speaks life to me. The delicacy, the leaves, the color. It's life affirming for me. Like when I see it, I'm alive. I'm around. I'm here. And for me, that's what it says. I'm here. You're alive.
I'll bully you later for that.
No, but it is. I always tell people that if I if I was buying art for myself, it would probably be abstract because I enjoy the mental gymnastics that abstract work gives me. And I also know that to abstraction, we read it as complicated, but it is simplifying things to their most abstract. Exactly. So if you know and you've trained your brain how to read abstract vocabulary, you may find that it's easier for you to enter those pieces. Because you can almost read the energy, you can almost be there with the artist making the decisions together on what the thing is going to turn out to be. And I do enjoy that with some of my works. But I also know that, again, colonialism rears its ugly head as people coming from Africa or continental Africa, we are looked at as people who don't understand abstraction or are incapable of abstracting.
I feel like our art, our original art, is the original abstraction.
You know, we simplify things to very, very, very simple. Simple. But I also realized that because for people that were coming from realism, they needed to unlearn the detail that comes from realism. They needed to re-educate themselves on the simplicity of a line, of a dot. So it took people a lifetime. It took, like Picasso says, it takes me 3 months to paint like Raphael, but it took him a lifetime to paint like a child. To arrive at that iconic style that we remember, because it's a much more struggle. The eye sees things in a realistic way and it wants to render them in a realistic way. So you're literally fighting your mind to reduce on the amount of detail you can put in a piece, in a work that's abstracted. You know, you're fighting yourself not to draw the eye the way you see it, or to try and put figures, because the face, human beings always look for faces in anything. So you're literally fighting yourself not to put a face, because even you're looking for a face.
For sure, you're looking for something to
latch on to, something recognizable to you. So it's a nice challenge for me. One, as the material, how can I use it to abstract thoughts and concepts and colors and all these little things? And I enjoy it. I know it's a difficult piece. I know lots of people don't gravitate towards it, but I don't care. It's lived in my living room for like 3 years.
And this one,
it's a hard time,
and it nourishes me, you know. And it's the kind of piece that it captures people's attention. 2-3 minutes, they look at it, they're like, I'll be like, you know. So it's one of those.
I'll give it another go.
I think you should, honestly. And it's the first one. I think it's number 1, right? Isn't it number 1? It's number 1.
Yes.
So when you walk in, it's the one
inviting you to slow down.
It's the thing that you go back to.
It also gives you an insight into the curator's curatorial decision. Because your mind expects number 1 to be at the entrance. But number 1 is right. So which means that the curator stood there and saw where her eye was drawn to. And she was like, when I walk in here, and she did it multiple times, when I walk in here, that's the first thing I see. So hence that's being number 1.
And then also the name, aptly inviting you come to an art gallery.
Slow down.
Yes. Come and enjoy.
That's a nice way of doing it.
Alright, so we've enjoyed being here with you, Pamela, and thank you for accommodating us.
Thank you so much.
It's been incredibly beautiful.
I'm intrigued with your work, because one of the things that I have to say, and you've probably experienced, we don't have a lot of good art writers, we don't have a lot of art critics, or at least discerning art critics. So each time somebody's interested in these conversations around art and art making, exhibition making, I'm always curious because I'm interested, you know, discovering other artists through your eyes. It's your work that brings people into galleries, because the truth is that not many of us went. The first time I went to a gallery, I was in Gaza High School in Senyapo. It was the first time I went to a gallery, and I never went again until I was an adult.
Okay.
The TikTokers, you people, and what you do brings people people into the gallery because you give people something.
Something different.
Some perspective.
Different on the
Right.
thing.
Yes. Because me as an artist, the only reason I think about audiences is because I'm actively doing a research.
Okay.
So I'm interested in feedback.
Yeah. We'll be very curious and we'll keep an eye out for your stuff, I'm sure.
And where the road leads.
Where the road leads, it's going to be very interesting.
I hope so, because I'm also quite scared because I'm like, oh my God, it's a shitload of work.
No, but you're doing it already.
Like this is like in our next interview, like maybe a year from now, you'll be like, so yeah, I've been traveling around.
I'm back on the road. Back from the road.
I'm actually getting back on the road next month.
Yeah.
Okay.
But studio wise.
Okay.
And I'm still unpacking symbols of Uganda.
Yeah.
So I'm latching onto the Uganda flag. I'm latching onto the Uganda anthem.
Okay.
If this was the ideal, how have we lived up to this ideal?
Actually, the other thing, so when you did this exhibition, you had a target audience, right?
Yeah.
Did you have a target audience?
Just
Ugandans.
Any Ugandans. Because it was supposed to be in Masaka. So I was actually taking it to people who had never been to a gallery.
Yeah.
Like, that was my intention.
But now Masaka you're not saying that you've not been to gallery.
It might come to you next. It might come to you next.
Because I wanted to target like everyday people.
Yeah.
I wanted to target school children.
Yeah.
I wanted to target like civil service, your LC.
Yeah.
You know, those people.
To get people interested in this conversation.
In this conversation, that's what I was thinking of. And even the next things that I want to do is a similar thing because I was like, I'm speaking to the converted. You know, you've been to exhibitions whereby you all know each other, you all artists. I was like, I'm kind of this conversation. I want to have some special
to engage other people.
And I was so lucky that TikTok did that for me. I'm not on TikTok.
Actually, the reception has been, because I don't know if maybe it's me who's out of touch, but this has been like really
one of the top
exhibitions. Like the reception I've seen.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Like,
I was
calm and they're like, I was there.
I was bowled over.
I mean, the space is new.
Yeah.
The presentation is new. It's fresh. It's something that you want to be a part of.
And like there is like very deliberate choices being made.
Yes. It's well thought out.
How it's shown. So we can close on your journey.
Yes.
Through an exhibition. What lessons you've taken away from it, and what are the next
bits. All right, let's see if I can summarize this. What I've learned what it means to put on a production of this kind. I had never done it. It was a step of faith. I had observed other people do it. So I reached out to people. I'm like, how do you do it? I read up and, So in terms of envisioning something and seeing it through, this is one of my first productions where I envisioned an exhibition 3 years ago and
3 years.
It's
been 3 years in the making.
Yes. Wow. And saw that through. And then, of course, the bottom line of choosing the right team, choosing the right collaborators.
Yeah.
That also was quite important for me.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, I've learned what it means to be an executive producer.
Love it.
Of an exhibition.
Women in executive production.
So, that for me was a good key learning point, and it's given me a lot of confidence now.
Okay.
Because I understand that side of the table too.
Okay.
Then what I'm doing next, because this project I am designing around following the myth of Nambi around the Lake Victoria region.
Okay.
So for the next 2 years or so, I just want to finish unpacking my Ugandanness. While it's a concurrent period, but I just want to, there's specific things I want to unpack for the next 2 years. And then I will, while doing that, I also want to find what other civilizations around the Lake Victoria might have developed around the myth, their creation myth. So I want to also explore that. And we'll probably have another solo in like 5 years.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We're here. So we're following.
But of course, I will be doing group exhibitions. I'll be engaging in pop-ups because that's how I, keep the conversation going.
Okay.
But another exhibition of this production, of this caliber,
this magnitude,
with this many works, that takes
5 years.
someone working on to. And I'm quite excited because there's a lot of material to go through.
Yeah, sure. No, us too. But okay, if there's one artist in Uganda who has influenced your work,
Yes.
is there one artist that has influenced?
There's not just one.
If you could pick one that has.
We're wrapping up and Stella is asking deep
It's the
questions.
last one. We want to know who inspires you. Who of the Ugandan artists?
Even if it's yourself?
Even if it's yourself, we'll take it. We just want to know where you're,
So I think instead of me just picking a person, I think I will pick a collective.
Okay.
There are 3 collectives that have been instrumental to my work. There is the East African Soul Train Collective. There is the Irada Granary Collective.
Okay.
And then, of course, being a member of 32 also sort of. But actually, before 32, there's Njabala Foundation.
Okay.
The work that I've been able to do with the Njabala Foundation.
Okay.
So those are about
those
4.
are like this is community.
Yes. So this is community because I'm increasingly every day I'm believing the idea that there is no single genius.
Yeah.
We are a genius.
Yeah.
So that means the amount of brilliance coming out of a community will spread out. So I'm part of a scene.
Yeah.
I'm part of a scene. So you just have to look to my peers, look to the members of that collective, look to what they're currently investigating or interrogating, and it will also tell you a little bit about me.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so greetings from the road, and we're back on the road now.
Yes.
Greetings to the people of Ateker.
Ateker. Okay, so it has a little bit of an accent.
You must pull the R.
Ateker. Yeah. It's actually like if you like Americanize it, it's like Ateker. I take care. So Ateker Ijasi Biyayi. A question.
Yes. How are you? Yes. How are you?
Pamela, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. For our listeners that missed the Greetings from the Road exhibition, we'll be sharing highlights from the experience on our pages. Be sure to check it out. You can also learn more about Pamela and the exhibition on the ACA Project website. Thank you for joining us on Art and About UG. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. You can also follow us on Instagram, X, and Facebook for all the visuals and behind the scenes. Until next time, come for the art, stay for the story.